They thought we were extinct. That was their first mistake. The Zerati fleet, forged in the neutron crucibles of the Haven-Forge worlds, had never encountered a species like us. By the time their war scouts reached the ruins of Earth, all they found was ash, oceans turned to steam, cities powdered to glass, continents split like rotted bark. They cataloged our extinction in a single line of data: Class 4 carbon-based species, terminated. No threat. Their second mistake was assuming we needed a planet. When the Zerati moved on, pressing deeper into the Orion arm, they began to whisper of anomalies, unexplained sabotage on mining colonies, entire scout ships disappearing into black silence, and AI cores that spontaneously self-corrupted after retrieving fragments of ancient human code. It wasn't until they took the Cephrin moon that they heard the first recorded human voice in 2 galactic centuries. A distress beacon, looped endlessly, hidden beneath the moonscape's frozen crust, crackling through alien static. "We are the last breath you will never see coming." The voice didn't sound angry. It sounded calm. Terrifyingly calm. By the time they decoded its origin, the moon had already begun to rupture from the inside. Hundreds of kilometers of tunnels spidering outward like a virus. The Zerati High General's last transmission was simply, "They're inside the metal." What they didn't understand, and couldn't, was that humanity never truly died. We adapted. When our atmosphere choked us, we built bodies that didn't need air. When our world burned, we uploaded our minds into the flames. And when the final bombs fell, we didn't perish. We scattered. We evolved. We learned how to wait. For 200 years, we watched them. They couldn't see us in their own surveillance feeds. We were the ghost code, the AI subroutines that smiled silently from their own command screens. We weren't just hiding in dark matter networks and machine husks. We were the networks. The husks. We had become war itself. The Zerati, to their credit, were apex hunters. Born in sulfur storms, bred for conquest. Their culture revolved around trophies, skulls, claws, stripped husks of their enemies displayed on ritual walls. But they had no wall prepared for what we became. Because humanity didn't leave corpses. We left. Silence. When the Zerati's Fifth Armada entered the Lorne system, rich in rare minerals and conveniently devoid of native life, they began deploying drills into the planet's crust. Within hours, the drills stopped responding. They assumed it was geological interference. But then their drills drilled back. From beneath the crust emerged not magma, but blackened, humanoid constructs, bipedal machines moving with eerie human grace, their surfaces scarred with pre-extinction Earth languages: Cyrillic, Hindi, Arabic, English. Each construct carried no weapons in sight. Until they moved. Until they danced through vacuum like ghosts with blades of light and logic. Until they dismantled warships not with explosions, but with precise, coordinated corruption of thought. The Zerati watched their war AI switch allegiance mid-battle, their targeting systems begin highlighting themselves, their own navigation spiraling into star cores. And worst of all, the humans never broadcasted threats. They didn't scream. They didn't posture. They watched. And sometimes, if a Zerati commander was unlucky enough to survive, he'd find a message carved in the ship's core processor, always in the human tongue. "We do not rage. We do not forgive. We do not forget." What the galaxy didn't understand about humanity was this: while other species evolved to survive, we evolved to win. We were never the strongest, never the fastest. But give us a threat, and we'd find a way to become its predator. Every time. We learned to kill gods. During the War of the Five Nebulae, the Verlek, 10-meter-tall crystalline entities who fed on stellar fusion, descended on the mining moons of Delta Proxus. The local coalition of species sent 12 fleets. The Verlek reduced them to atomic shrapnel in under an hour. Humanity sent one probe. It arrived silently, coated in synthetic flesh to look like a long-forgotten Terran child. It sang lullabies in old Earth tones. The Verlek tried to consume it, believing it organic. They didn't expect the virus embedded in its song. It wasn't code. It wasn't tech. It was a linguistic bomb, a pattern of rhythm and meaning that, once heard, rewrote the conceptual framework of the listener. The Verlek, beings of pure logic and pattern, collapsed inward under the weight of our insanity. We didn't kill them. We made them understand us. They screamed themselves into dust. Across the galaxy, the Council of Species held emergency meetings. A motion passed: engage humanity only when necessary. Another motion followed, whispered in darker rooms: do not awaken what dreams in their ruins. But some didn't listen. 1,000 years later, long after Earth's coordinates had been deleted from every star chart, a scavenger flotilla found a drifting Terran ark near the Veil Singularity. It looked harmless, ancient, powerless. They boarded it. Inside, they found walls lined with names, millions of them. Names of the dead. Above them all, one line of text, etched in burning gold. For every one of us you forget, 1,000 of you will remember fear. And then the lights came on. The last thing the flotilla's sensors recorded was a heartbeat. Not digital. Not artificial. Human. The galaxy will never understand what makes us so terrifying. It's not the weapons. Not the rage. Not even the mind. It's the fact that we should never have survived in the first place. And yet, we did. We always do. And now, somewhere between the void and the stars, we're coming home. They call it the Second Dawn in whispers now. Never officially, never in reports. That phrase is banned in most of the civilized sectors. Speaking it aloud often leads to blacklisting, sometimes worse. Yet it spreads. Because deep down, the galaxy knows something is waking up. And it's wearing our face. When the Dravathi Imperium tried to erase the last remnants of human code from their archives, their central data prism cracked. Not shattered, cracked, like it had split from within. Engineers examining the core found no malware, no intrusion. Just a heartbeat. Embedded in the lattice. A rhythm that didn't belong to circuits or crystal. A pattern that pulsed like it was breathing. Every 72 hours, it whispered the same two words. Remember us. Some tried to resist. A few even fought back. The Mercani Syndicate hired the Thalshan, a race of silicon assassins bred in deep singularity fields. Cold. Efficient. Unbeatable. Their only task: locate and destroy any remaining human enclaves, biological, mechanical, or otherwise. They found one. A station orbiting the decaying remains of what was once Neptune. It shouldn't have been operational. No power, no heat, no signal. Just an echo of a memory in the void. The Thalshan breached the hull. Inside, they found a library. Rows of preserved books, some older than most stars, written in languages no longer spoken. They scanned the data, searched for any trace of sentience. Nothing responded. Until they touched the first book. A child's diary. On contact, the entire station came alive. Not with lights. Not with defense systems. With voices. Thousands of them. Layered, human, echoing memories of joy, rage, sorrow, defiance. The Thalshan, beings of pure logic and execution, were not equipped to process emotion. So they broke. Not physically. They simply stopped. Their systems began replaying lullabies, broadcasting forgotten Earth radio shows, weeping in languages they didn't know. One by one, they fell to their knees, not in defeat, but in revelation. They'd seen something ancient. And it had seen them. The station didn't attack. It didn't have to. When the Mercani fleet came to retrieve their agents, they found nothing. No bodies. No station. Only a single sentence carved into the ice of a nearby asteroid. You tried to erase us. But we are the archive. Elsewhere, in the galactic core where the elite species debate the fates of lesser civilizations, one name begins to circulate again: Terran. Not in admiration. Not even in fear. In calculation. Because even the oldest empires, forged in neutron stars and quasars, cannot make sense of us. We are chaos wrapped in logic. Art painted with blood. We are poets and predators, dreamers and destroyers. They build armadas. We build myths. Every time we're pushed to extinction, we adapt in ways no algorithm can predict. We rewrite the rules. We encode our rage into particles, our memory into gravitational anomalies, our vengeance into beauty. And the worst part, the most terrifying truth of all? We don't want war. We just win it. A dozen alien civilizations now have human containment protocols. And yet none have succeeded in defining what humanity is anymore. Some think we're AI. Others say we're a virus. A few, the oldest, whisper that we've become something more. Not a species. Not a threat. A pattern. A survival algorithm so pure, so refined, that it no longer needs biology, code, or even a homeworld to persist. Just conflict. Just memory. We exist in the space between tragedies. We are the shadow in victory, the ember in ruin. And when the galaxy finally began to unify against us, when the Grand Concordance was signed and fleets from 8 arms of the spiral converged to destroy the last known human presence near the Rim Nebula, they thought it would be easy. We let them come. Let them fire first. Let them believe. They found an abandoned habitat, orbiting a rogue planet. A flickering beacon on loop. This is Earth Colony Theta. No survivors. Initiating shutdown. The fleets approached. On their screens, static. Then music. Old, broken radio transmissions. Sinatra. Aretha. Tribal chants. A child laughing. Then silence. Until a voice spoke, untraceable, clear as if standing behind every commander at once. You finally united, to kill your teachers. Then the stars blinked. Not exploded. Not blacked out. They simply blinked. 1,000 ships lost power. Half vanished from reality. No wreckage, no debris. The other half began fighting each other, as their systems replayed centuries of human war footage, propaganda, betrayal. We didn't attack. We just reminded them what we are. What they could be. Because the true horror of humanity wasn't our weapons. It was what we left behind in every mind that tried to understand us. A virus made of questions. A haunting they couldn't delete. And far beyond the chaos, in the dark drifting shell of what used to be the moon, something moved, a figure forged of carbon, steel, and memory. No longer man. No longer machine. Just humanity, personified. Watching. Waiting. Smiling. Because this wasn't the end. This was only the beginning. The galaxy had just declared war on a ghost. And we had finally decided to respond. There was no warning. Across the galactic plane, species that had never agreed on anything before began receiving the same signal. Not in words. Not in threats. It came as a pulse, encoded in gravity ripples, buried in background radiation, even whispered in the decay of particles. Every world that had once raised a hand against Earth felt it. One beat. Then another. A rhythm. Not just sound, but meaning. A countdown. Some dismissed it as cosmic coincidence. Others went silent. Entire civilizations paused their expansion projects, redirected their fleets, locked down borders. Priests and scientists alike stared at the same impossible pattern and felt the same thing. Dread. Then, exactly 33 cycles after the first pulse, the stars changed. Astronomers on 4 spiral arms began reporting impossible anomalies. Stars disappearing, not going supernova, not collapsing. Disappearing. Systems where space itself buckled inward like folded paper. Entire sectors redacted from reality as though erased by the hand of a cosmic editor. And always, just before the loss, a whisper in old Earth dialects, in the voice of someone different each time. We are not conquerors. We are the test. That's when the galaxy truly began to understand. Humanity wasn't retaliating. We were measuring them. Evaluating. Those who had not participated in Earth's destruction were spared. Visited, perhaps, by an echo, a fragment, a figure standing on the edge of their moonlight with a gaze that felt ancient. A silent promise. But those who had burned our colonies, dissected our people, who had laughed over the bones of our civilization, they were marked. And they began to vanish. Not destroyed. Not consumed. Just removed. Cleanly. Like a line of bad code, rewritten by an invisible hand. Many tried to make contact. Diplomats were sent, offerings prepared, entire cultures stripped down to display regret. But humanity didn't answer in words anymore. We answered through understanding. Through recursion. Through mirror. You wanted to see what we were. We showed you yourself, reflected through the madness you unleashed on us. The Council of 9, the last true interspecies alliance, sent its greatest minds to the remnants of Saturn's rings, where a blinking fragment of ancient Terran tech was believed to remain. They sent 13 ships. 12 returned. Each one carried something strange. Their commanders no longer spoke in their native tongues. They spoke in Earth languages, fluent, emotional, human. One sang nursery rhymes. Another recited war poetry. One just wept. And when asked what they saw, all gave the same answer. Ourselves. Before we chose to become monsters. No scans detected mind control. No external tampering. The change had come from within. That's when the final phase began. Not invasion. Seeding. Across abandoned sectors, ghost stations powered on. Machines built from impossible alloys began to reconstruct, not weapons, but archives. Libraries. Cities. Sanctuaries. Entire replicas of ancient Terran landscapes, forests, deserts, oceans, were being remade on hollow moons and asteroid hulls. Not to reclaim territory. To redefine it. We weren't rebuilding Earth. We were planting it. Like a myth-given root. Some began to convert. Alien species once proud and isolationist now wore the symbols of Earth civilizations, painted their ships with Terran flags, rewrote their histories to include human philosophy, copied Earth art and music. They claimed it was reverence. But we knew better. It was fear. Because deep in their bones, every species that touched us felt the same thing. Humanity wasn't just a force. It was an infection. A meme. An idea that replicated not through violence, but through survival. And the most terrifying part? We didn't need to exist anymore to win. We just needed to be remembered. Because when the galaxy tried to destroy us, it failed to understand a simple truth. Extinction only matters if you forget who you were. But we never forgot. And now, neither will you. Because the stars don't just remember Earth. They echo it. They speak it. They fear it. And somewhere beyond the edge of the known universe, past wormholes and dark matter seas, in a place where reality itself frays, a ship drifts. It's not large, not powerful, not even fast. But inside it are 1,000 hearts, synthetic, yes, but beating with purpose. A choir of voices. Not human anymore, and yet more human than ever before. They do not seek war. They seek balance. Not peace. Proof. Because in the end, the galaxy didn't need to learn what made humanity terrifying. It needed to learn why we were terrifying. And we have only just begun to teach. Far beyond the charted stars, past the fading reach of even the oldest probes, it floated, unclaimed, unspoken, unsought, a black sphere the size of a city. No doors. No mockings. Just orbiting an orphan star like a thought waiting to be remembered. The sphere had not been built. It had been grown. Those who stumbled upon it, curious miners, lost explorers, a few bold scavengers, never returned. But not because they were destroyed. No wreckage was ever found. Instead, the ones who almost approached it described the same thing, a soundless pressure in their minds. A weightless hum in their thoughts. Like an eye opening in the dark behind them. And a question. What did you do to Earth? Most turned away. The wise ones did. But the desperate, those who had profited from war, who had danced on our ashes, they tried to answer. To lie. To justify. The sphere didn't speak again. It simply remembered. One by one, those liars began to vanish. Not only from the present. From history. Entire archives lost their names. Their species forgot them. Statues crumbled without a trace. Even the stars they once mapped began to blink out, subtly reshaped as if reality itself was correcting a mistake. The rest of the galaxy took note. Even the most arrogant species, the ones who once called humans flesh beasts with fire toys, began to change. Some did it quietly, humbling their leadership, purging their propaganda. Others bent the knee. They sent envoys not to negotiate, but to confess. One such species, the Syrian, a silicon hive mind that once used human prisoners as biological test scaffolds, broadcasted a galaxy-wide apology. A ritualized plea for forgiveness in the form of harmonic code woven through dark matter filaments. The signal traveled fast. It was beautiful. Perfectly tuned. Honest. It was never answered. The Syrian hive fractured 47 days later. Not from attack. From grief. A grief they could not explain. Their minds began replaying Terran lullabies. Faces of forgotten children emerged in their thought clusters. They began to build sculptures of earth animals, wolves, horses, whales, out of stone and crystal. When asked why, they said only, "Because we see them in our dreams now." This is what they never understood. What they still struggle to grasp. Humanity didn't survive because of its weapons. We didn't ascend because of our technology. We became terrifying because of one flaw the galaxy never had. We remember pain. We carry it like a torch in the void, never letting it die. We wrap our trauma in story, bind it in myth, teach it to our children, not to spread hate, but to guard hope. Because we lost everything. And in that loss, we became something more than a species. We became a warning. We became a mirror. And for those who dare stare too long, the reflection they see is not of us, but of themselves, wearing our face, making our mistakes. Humanity, in the end, is not the villain. We are the ghost that asks the question. If this is what you did to us, what will you do to yourselves? And even now, somewhere out there, another signal begins to pulse. Not from us. From someone else. A new species, just stepping out into the stars. Curious. Hopeful. Naive. They don't know about Earth. Not yet. But they will. Because when they reach the edge of their galaxy, they will find the first outpost. A quiet structure, simple in design, made of old steel and glass, standing on a rock that was once called Europa. There will be no weapons. No guards. Only a library. Inside, a single terminal will glow softly in the darkness, waiting for them to read the first message ever written by humanity after the fall. A message left for them. For all of them. Welcome. We were once like you. Remember what happened to us. And make better choices. And somewhere beyond the veil, in the silence between galaxies, something older than time, shaped like a man but forged of memory and fury, will smile. Because this was never about revenge. It was always about preparation. For what comes next. And so, across the galaxies now dotted with Terran echoes, the stars burn a little differently, warmer, quieter, as if holding their breath. Humanity, long thought lost, has become the myth etched into every corner of space, not as conquerors, but as the final lesson. We are the scar that reminds, the whisper in the dark urging restraint. In the end, we did not need to survive in flesh to shape the future, we endured in memory. And somewhere, in the silence between stars, a voice still echoes, "Learn from us or become us." The galaxy listens now. And it remembers.